Welcome to the CQC video tutorial series. This is video 8, Triggered Events. In this video, we're going to look at triggered events. Triggered events allow CQC to react to a change in the state of some device under its control and to carry out an action in response. And this is something that's very important if you're looking for more of that smart home sort of solution, because it allows for a considerable amount of autonomy on the part of the automation system to do things on its own. And of course, with great power comes great responsibility, because it is going to do things on its own, whether you're home or not, or whether you're watching or not. So make sure that you understand what you're doing, but it is an extremely powerful tool. We're going to do a little bit of prep work here. So far, we've only had the lighting system driver installed. And of course, this is a simulator lighting system. You may have installed your own. But we're going to also now install a security system. Actually, let me bring this down so you can see what I'm doing. So I'll right click on the host that I want to install it on, and I will select add driver. And here again, I'm going to install a device simulator, which is under Charm Quark. And then down here, there are a set of simulators. And I'll select the security one. If you want, you can install this one, or you can try to install your own and continue forward with that, which will allow you to do more realistic things. And I'm going to call it security. And there's unlikely to be more than one security system in a home, so that's safe enough. And the options here, there aren't really any, because it's just a device simulator, so it doesn't actually have to talk to anything. Okay, so that is now set up, and we are ready to move forward and create a triggered event. Okay, so now that we have a new driver installed, let's go ahead and create a triggered event. I'm going to size this back up again now. So let's go to Customize, Events, and this is where all of the event types are. And remember, in a previous video, we looked at scheduled events. This time we're going to look at triggered. So expand that out. And as always, we're going to create our own scope for our content. And as I've done in previous examples here, I'm going to just call it mine. Call yours something more appropriate. And I'll right click here and create a new file. And I'll just call it kitchen lights motion. And you'll notice that initially it is grayed out, which means it is disabled. And that's because there's no actual point in running it until we actually have some content in it. So when you initially create them, they are disabled. So let's double click to edit. And what we get now is the triggered event editing screen. And as always, there is the actual action, which we would do down here with the edit action button, which just brings up the standard action editor we've seen many times before. And then there are the bits that are specific to that particular action invocation. In the case of triggered events, it is a set of filters. And what happens is that when a state of a field changes in CQC, some of them are set up to automatically send out what is called a trigger, an event trigger. And you can also just set arbitrary triggers on any field if you would like to respond to it within a triggered event. Standard ones are things like motion, lighting, locks, and security zones, things like that. But you can actually create them for any field if you need to. So I'm just going to give this one a title here. We'll say kitchen lights on motion at night. We're also going to make sure it only happens at night, which makes a lot of sense. So the point of these filters is to limit which of those incoming triggers will cause this triggered event to occur. And you want to make sure that you really only have it happen when it is specifically desired. So you want to be careful about your filters here and make sure that you get them right and really filter out anything that you don't need to respond to. And most of the time you want to use the most generic filter first, the one that will filter out the most number of events. And sometimes that's not always clear, but where it is, make use of that. And that would generally be the one that is the most specific. So let's click on one of the filters here, and it will give us a drop down. And this provides us with a list of all the available filters. And probably the most specific one would be, is it a motion event for the particular field that we care about, which would be the motion sensor in the kitchen? So let's select is motion event for, and you notice if you select one here, you will see down at the bottom some helper text that will give you more information about what it is used for. And this one wants a field. As is generally the case within CQC, you can just right click and insert things interactively. So right click and hit insert field. And let's go to the security driver, and let's pick the motion sensor, and they're all here at the top. Motion, start with mote, and we'll select kitchen. So now when an event trigger comes in, it will be compared to, is it a motion event, and is it a motion event from this specific motion sensor? That's probably the most specific filter because it's going to filter out anything other than this one field. And the other thing we want to do is to make sure that it's motion on as opposed to motion off, because motion sensors do both. So let's do another one, and we'll say is motion start as opposed to here is motion end. So this first one here would allow either start or end through. And now we've further refined it by saying we only want motion start events. And now we also want to make sure it's only at night. So let's do another one, and we'll select is night. So now we have our 3 triggered event filters. And what will happen now is that the event trigger will come in, and the event server will begin to compare each of these filters against the incoming trigger information. And in this case, we need to tell it how to combine these because we have more than one, and that's done with the trigger if down here. So we're saying if all of them are true, then it passes. So that means that if any of these fail, it can immediately just stop and not even attempt any more of the filters. So that's generally why you want the most specific one first, because it's the one most likely to fail. As soon as it does, then it can just stop even trying. So now we are ready with our filters, and all we need to do is just edit the action, which in our case is very simple, to just turn on the lights. And we will do the usual command that we've done many times before, which is just command devices and field write, which just lets us write a value to a field. So we select the field, which in our case would be the kitchen lights. So let's turn on the kitchen wall. And we could also, let's set that to true. And we can also just copy and paste that. And we can do the other kitchen light as well. The kitchen table. All right, so that's it. We have now created our triggered event. You can also use log invocations here. If you check this, it will log every time it's run when it starts and stops. And this can be used to figure out if you are having it run when it really shouldn't be. In other words, it's not filtering quite as well as it should, so it's running in response to event triggers that really shouldn't be running it. So I'm going to save this. Let's do Control-S to save. And now all we have to do is go right-click on it and resume it, and it will be running now. You can see that it goes to black. So that's it. You can create your triggered events pretty much that simply. So go ahead and maybe try some more of your own and see if they work as you expect, and we'll see you in the next video.